Welcome to Nourishing the Mother, where inspired women talk about the journey of motherhood through the common thread of parenting, relationship, and sexuality as a path to consciousness. We keep our conversations honest, our experiences real, and our philosophies exploratory.
We believe that in order to raise incredible humans, we first have to raise ourselves. We know that in order to rock the family, you've got to nourish the mother. If you are here, you care about paving a path of conscious and intentional motherhood, connected with yourself and your gifts, and also illuminating your children in theirs so we may raise more whole humans who can impact this world in a more humane way. If you desire to integrate this learning practically and supportively into your life, then Soul-Driven Motherhood is your space to go deeper. Head on over to nourishingthemother.com.au or follow any of the links on our socials for Soul-Driven Motherhood.
We are Julie Tenner and Bridget Wood, and we're so grateful you're here.
Hello and welcome to Nourishing the Mother. I'm Bridget Wood.
And I'm Julie Tenner. And today's podcast is Do I Shrink and Stay Safe? Or Do I Expand and Speak My Truth? Which I actually just adore the title of, because I think that is an existential question that we could literally spend the rest of our lives spinning through.
Yeah.
I think. So I'm really excited actually to have this conversation with you, particularly as you've been going through a super challenging time this year. So, which we've largely kind of kept off the waves. And this is the first time you've kind of said, look, I think I'm ready to just start having the conversation in small ways.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to do that. Excited doesn't feel right. I'm really
enthusiastic. I'm feeling really enthused.
I don't know what it is. A heart opened, heart centered. I don't know. Like, I'm just like, wow, I'm really happy that you're here and we're doing this. I think that speaks volumes.
Yeah. And I think through my story and also a lot of your story over the past probably 18 months too, there's going to be a lot that we can weave into this.
Definitely. We super hope that this is really valuable for you, dear listener, because shrinking and staying safe or expanding and speaking your truth is a fork in the road that you will encounter so many, many, many times in your life.
Yeah.
And certainly in motherhood. So we really hope this is deeply valuable for you and continues the conversations that we're having in Soul-Driven Motherhood for Elixir, which we've expanded to really workshop the level of consciousness and awakening that we certainly perceived everyone was getting in April. So we've continued it through to May. So if you're really ready to workshop your own perceptions and ways of being and belonging to the world, then Soul-Driven Motherhood is definitely your place to do that, which is also where we are now live streaming our podcast.
We are.
So come on in. It's a beautiful place to be. What else? I would love to remind you to jump onto nourishingthemother.com.au and scroll on down to the red banner, drop in your email address, and once every so often, I really, really, really want to get better at it. I don't know how many times I've said this on the podcast.
I did send one recently. So we have sent one recently.
I'm working really hard in my head and it needs to get on the paper to change that, because I would really love to continue conversations that are in the written word. So if you would love to receive that, then please come and join our email community at nourishingthemother.com.au. So, Bridget, I'm going to put my piece of paper down.
Sure.
And I'm going to turn around so I can look at you.
Yes. Do I shrink and stay safe?
Yeah.
Yes, it's been a question that I've been rubbing up against as I feel exposed. I think it's an interesting thing. And I said this, it's a curious thing doing your work in the world and having someone out there that seems quite determined to kind of tear it to pieces or really project upon you all of these identities and personas that they think you are. For what purpose, I don't know, but to, I guess, unsettle, supposedly make you accountable to something that they believe you need to be accountable to. And it is a beautiful yet painful opportunity for soul searching on, how important is my mission to me? How important is what I'm saying? and talking about and wanting to bring conscious to how important is that to me in the face of feeling attacked and challenged. And do I desire to seek the safety and solace of what I know and who I know in my cocoon of relative comfort in those that I know love me? Or can I stand by who I was 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, yesterday, in integrity with my evolving self and love her even in the face of people not loving her? It's been that's really been the kind of questioning that I've been sitting with. I
just want to honour that, because I actually think it's a really, I don't know how many adults actually do that. Can say in the face of ridicule for things you did or did not do, can you love yourself with integrity with who you are now? Because, of course, I mean, all of us have made mistakes, said and done things and learnt, because it is literally the forum of Earth.
Yes.
To continuously learn every day.
Yeah.
That we wouldn't do now. We wouldn't choose now. We wouldn't behave like that now. I mean, that is literally the point of growth. So I don't know what I want to say here, other than I just really felt the impact of your words then, saying, yeah, geez, that's like, I think as far as spiritual practice goes, and certainly in terms of stoicism and really opening up and commanding yourself at a heart level, is to say, can I withstand and let go of so much ego?
Yeah.
That I can be imperfect, have stones thrown, and still hold my sacred ground and say, this is me. Yeah.
And almost see yourself as, like, you know, the canvas through which other people are going to throw or paint or distort however they want to see you to be. And can you still stand there and say, this is me? However you view me, this is me right now. And stay as connected to yourself in that process that, you know, as possible, rather than trying to contort or, you know, try to make amends in some way. So often what can happen is, if we feel like we might have made mistakes in the past, which is not what I'm suggesting that I've done necessarily, but what we can tend to do when that happens, you know, when we internalize the shame and then we try to do things to better ourselves. So it comes out of this, you know, guilt and shame spiral, and we're only ever as good enough as what we perceive some outside authority is going to pat us on the head with and say, well done, which means that we're actually never ever going to measure up for ourselves, or whip us with.
Punish us with and say, nope, wrong way. Go, please be more the same.
Yeah, it's very much almost like we're still parentified as an adult based on how well we fit the authority, whoever we put in that role, their yeses or nos on who we are. So, I mean, gosh, like the lessons in this in terms of how I show up and what I focus on and what I give my voice to, as well as, you know, how important integrity is in terms of traversing something like this in a way that transcends being a victim for my parenting is imperative for me. Like to look at this and go, it'd be so easy to go, oh, this, you know, troll, this person out there is nasty or vitriolic or harassing or bullying, or all of these perfectly reasonable labels that we might put on behavior like this, and let that be the teacher to our children of how not to behave, which is fine. Or go one step further and say to our child, it's interesting this is happening right now. I wonder what is here for me to learn from, and how in some way, a little like we talk to our children about bullies on the playground and empowerment, and how we see our co-creation of what we bring into our world. How is this person or this situation actually a pathway to my empowerment, not an expression of disempowerment or punishment or wrongness or all of the things that can make it negative, and how is it instead actually something that is resilience building and further revealing of myself. That's the way that I've wanted to lean towards, and that's the kind of conversation that I've been opening up with my son as we talk about what happens on social media and what happens when you speak your truth. Because the moment that you take a stance, the universe is designed to ensure that somebody else is going to take an equal and opposite opposing stance. And that person may or may not come into your sphere. But if they come into your sphere, you're likely going to know about it, which is exactly what's happened here. And it's interesting to me that it's taken this long, actually, because over 5 or 6 years, I talked about sometimes quite controversial topics with little or no challenge that I perceived externally to me. And it's only when there's been like a latency in the work that I've been doing that this has popped up, you know, and kind of popped up in quite a potent way for me. So it's almost everything that I've been afraid of or repressed or kind of pushed away that I didn't want to face in using my voice. Well, here it is. Like, here's everything that you would kind of tap dancing around as you spoke on challenging topics or spoke on controversial topics. Or here is like the groundswell of resistance to that, and can you still stand by your the space that you took up in saying those things, or holding a forum for different ideas? And I can, and that's because I can. That means I've still got my power. It means I can still be in it, and it means I can still move toward the discomfort of seeing it, knowing that it's not something that just needs to be eradicated and go away and because it's uncomfortable, but actually it's a portal for me to grow through.
I wonder if you can speak on, because what I would perceive would be, in inverted commas, the normal response would be, oh my God, shut down everything social media wise. It's such an unsafe place.
Yeah.
See, I told you so. I always knew. Anybody who does this is crazy. We can now never. You're not allowed social media. My children are allowed social media. This is not a safe space.
Oh, I certainly cycled through thoughts like that. There was times when I felt really vulnerable. I was like, oh my God, like I just want to walk away from all of this. But I sensed that was a part of me that it wasn't my heart, like my true authentic self saying that. It was a part of me that was afraid, you know, and the part of me that wanted safety. You know, the part of me that's like the animal that feels threatened and that there's a predator out there and that I want to get away from that predator. Sure. And, you know, there'd be posts that would hit that edge, right? And there'd be the protective mum that's like, right, you're not having social media till you're 16, you know, like that looks for and sees that as, that predatory environment. But then I stay a little longer in it and I'm like, okay, like, I know that there's, like everything, right? Like everything has its opposite. And so I can't have a voice on social media or build communities on social media and accept all of the riches and the jewels and the magnificent community creation and amazing friendships that I've made online without also having to take this as well, and without also opening myself up to being misinterpreted and misunderstood, and you know, that's part of it. And to try to deny that would be like running away from shadows you can never outrun. So certainly momentarily there was times where I was like, gosh, it would be really just easy to never have a public profile, and you know, is that really something that I want? And you know, gosh, what have I created? And you know, all of those thoughts that go through your head.
How do you come back from those or move yourself through those?
For me, it's just noticing that that's where my thought pattern is going, or all my feelings are going, and then coming back to my values and and seeing bigger than how this feels right now. And then with that, like, you know, moving beyond that impulsive short-term kind of thinking or desire to retreat, to take a longer vision of who I am and who I desire to be and how I desire to show up for my family. That's enough to kind of get me out of that, you know, I guess more animal part of my brain, and to turn on the parts that I know have more foresight. Yeah, foresight to see this is on the way, not in the way of something that I really want, if that makes sense.
How are you seeing it on the way? What are the benefits?
Yeah, so for me, it's really, really resilience building, because...
Do you perceive you needed resilience building?
Yeah, I think we can all do it. I think always, right? I think we can always build more resilience. And I think, you know, it really speaks to that the challenge of being human is that tussle between our higher mind, like our soul, and our lower mind, which is our animal impulsive behavior. And so anything like this that is an invitation to really meet that kind of tussle head on, I think is a great way to build resilience. And this really is that, because it's like, okay, I have to look at my message and look at what I'm creating and who I'm speaking to, and am I speaking to those that I want to appease, or am I speaking to the hearts that I want to awaken? Because I'm not interested in diluting my message to be acceptable by someone who I don't value speaking to. I want to be as open and honest and connected to the woman who needs my message. And so that's been one to dance. And there's certainly been times where I found it really hard to create and write because of the kind of like, what's the word? Like the something on my back. You know, like the monkey on my back, you know, like that kind of sense of, oh, what are they going to turn this into? And, you know, what are they going to say about that? But then I had to keep coming back to, you know, if your message is big enough, you don't really care who's got a problem with it, because you're not talking to them anyway. Like if they've got a problem with you, then I'm not going to like transform myself to make myself okay for you. I don't do that in my intimate relationships. So I certainly ain't going to do it to someone I don't even know. Right.
So you see it as resilience building,
yeah,
but also sharpening with a laser focus on what your message is,
yeah,
which is hugely actually important and powerful when you've been, well, I'm trying to find this new evolution of myself, and now it's like,
yeah,
get clear. What is it? Like that's kind of beautiful in a way.
It really is. Like it really is. And I think when you can start to chip away at it and go, you know, what are the benefits here, instead of trying to wish away the hard thing, then you start to realize that there's a lot that you can alchemize into gold, that simply by the questions that you ask. And so, yeah, certainly resilience building has been one of the things that I've seen it. You know, I've been aware of the level of support that's come with this as well, and I've been conscious to not attach to that either, because for the challenge, there's been a complete match in support, both in my close networks and in, you know,
further out
than, yeah, that's right. So I can see that I'm not getting one without the other. So it breaks any kind of fantasy. Like, you know, I can see that that's...
Why are you careful not to attach to the support? What does that mean?
So if I attach too much to the support that I'm getting for this, then I could unconsciously continue to create something like this in order to get this level of support. So I could become addicted to it. Addicted to the drama that this creates because of the level of connection and support I get from it, right?
Can we slow that down?
Yes.
For those listeners?
Sure.
Because for you and I, we're like, we see this quite a lot.
Yes.
But for, you know, those that are not as practiced or have the opportunity to be as practiced as we are by virtue of what we do in the world. Can you just slow that down?
Yeah. So for kind of everything has within it a seed of benefit, or seed of kind of both sides, right? But if we don't consciously see that benefit that we're getting, we will continue to, and I'm kind of going on a bit of a tangent now. I'm not making it very helpful. Okay, how can I talk about this more clearly? Even the things that we think might be bad, we can actually manipulate so that they can feel good for us by how we draw in people to be in the victim mode with us, right? Like, so then
if there's a war outside of you,
yes,
it creates immense connection and peace inside the castle.
That's right.
Whatever your castle is.
Yeah. So you and I see this a lot in family dynamics. So, you know, the war with the mother-in-law creates closeness with your partner.
And if what you're seeking is closeness and points of connection with your partner because you're not consciously creating those, then you will unconsciously continue to manifest the person for whom gives you the impetus for those strings of connection.
So you might bond in kind of a like bit of a toxic way on, you know, the mother-in-law, whereas you could find a bond another way. So if I wasn't conscious of this, I could find support and connection through being attacked.
Because this is really hard though. Like, I even just want to slow this bit down.
Yeah.
Because this is on the animal level that's currently feeling threatened. Is really hard not to just want to curl up into the womb of support.
Yeah. Yeah. Like to kind of.
That's kind of an equal resilience to, I can't let myself completely enmesh and, you know, be so wombed in support that's where I want to stay.
Yeah.
Same as it's an equal hard, I think, practice to go, how can I stand in this challenge and still be me? Like, I actually see those as equal practices in a lot of ways.
Because it'd be really easy.
Because you're trying to stand in the middle.
Yeah, it is. It's trying to stand in the middle. That's what it is. Because it'd be so easy. And I dare say probably, possibly like relationship building to kind of go into that like childlike, you know, because even my mother, like the way that she's wanted to kind of come out and protect, and it's been beautiful, right? But also my family has also come into the degree to which I've perceived myself to be challenged in this. So I can also see that there's room for me to actually move towards this and go, oh yeah, this is just part of it. In which they will also feel safer to go, oh yeah, she's got it all right. She's seeing this is just part of it. But this is my first real facing of something like this on a scale like this, you know. And so the way that I've perceived it and the way that those close to me have perceived it has felt like a big threat. And so when it's like, you know, if you imagine in the wild, like when somebody in the pack is threatened, then the pack gets tight and the pack works together and the pack connects. And so if I didn't have a way to connect with my pack more consciously, then I could continue to perpetuate something like this in order to get that connection. So I'm aware of that. And it's a little bit like, you know, like the classic drama triangle. If you aren't aware of how to create what you want, then you'll use drama to manifest it. So for me, it's like, okay, I see this is here. What can I take from it? What can I use from it? And then more consciously create, seeing that challenge is inevitable. The haters are inevitable. So what do I really want to stand for? Because shrinking and like pussyfooting around what I'm being attacked for is not a viable option.
It's pretty bold and brave, though. It's courageous.
Yeah.
Well, it's only a few that would choose that path, right? Which I dare say is the path of excellence, because I don't think there'd be anyone who's reached any great height of any description without walking this fiery path that you're walking. But the truth is most people will choose not to walk those coals. But that's why so few end up being great.
Yeah, I don't feel like I'm in the realm of greatness.
I knew you were going to say
I know you knew I was going to say it, but I'm like, oh, I don't think I can stand you hearing that, but yes.
Can you not? Like greatness isn't one thing. Like just greatness.
Just going to breathe it in. Thanks. Yeah.
I think it's, yeah. Anyway. That is a podcast for another day because I was about to go off on a rant and let's bring it back to the topic at hand.
Yeah.
Which is, do I shrink and stay safe or do I expand and speak my truth? How, when your inclination is to shrink and stay safe, do you continue to expand and speak your truth?
Sometimes a little gingerly. Like, you know, it's not like a chest beating rah-rah. It's a, oh, fuck. You know, kind of like being with myself and being with my tenderness and sometimes being a little quieter. It's certainly been a very inward process, a lot of this.
I really appreciate that reflection because I think it's something that we would rarely be privy to knowing or seeing or witnessing. And I 100% think that that is more the case than the chest beating.
Yeah. I mean, I think on the outside it can sometimes look like that, you know, lion or that courage or that like relentlessness of just keep on keeping on, but I don't think that that's the truth. There's a little bit of like, you know, licking your wounds kind of thing with it, but also practicing like being willing to see yourself in all the myriad distortions that we can be seen as, because we're all filtering everything according to what we value or what we hate, right? So I think being willing to recognize that all you can really be accountable to is the integrity of your own truth in a moment, and as much as you can the person in front of you and who they are and their truth, but knowing that if you were to try and please everybody, you would please nobody, and especially not yourself.
So true, isn't it? Try and please everybody and you please nobody.
Yeah, because all you're doing is just kind of going, am I okay here? Am I okay there? Oh gosh, I don't want to, like, you know, and you're never actually you because you're being a chameleon based on whoever you're in front of and wherever you are. And that's really, it's not you, right?
So what wisdom do you have for the younger you?
It's funny you should say that because I was flicking through some old photos and I found like this photo from my year 12 yearbook, and like I winced because it was like the yearbook where you like put, you know, like you put your comma, your blurby thing, and mine was just so teenage.
What was it?
Oh my God, it was so un-PC for a start.
This is so not like Bridget.
Well, it was really funny because I just thought I laughed at myself because I thought I'm everything, right? I am a massive contradictions like we all are. Like on the one hand, it was the same year. I'm pretty sure it was the same year. Was it the same year? It was the same year I broke up with my boyfriend because I couldn't handle how racist he was and quick to judge the September 11 attacks. Like it was, I had a visceral body reaction and disgust at how racist he was about it. And it was just the last straw for me, right? So how like conscious and educated of me to just not tolerate that. And then I'm reading my fucking yearbook. Oh my God, I can't even believe I'm saying this. I should find it. Oh my God. And it said something like, it was a story of like me at a pub with my girlfriends, and somebody was in a pig suit and like they were dancing, they were on a table, and that was the funniest highlight of my year. And then the next thing was, what am I known for? Oh, my funny sayings like Mara and Afghan. Like, what? And my greatest accomplishment, a good fake ID.
Back in the day where you could.
Back when you could, when it was like the golden era. But I laughed because I thought, for all the ways that I might have thought I was like, you know, educated or whatever, I was just as like crass and inappropriate.
When we all like that is
yes.
of teenage.
Yes, and so I laughed and I kind of took her under my wing and I thought, yep, but I'm still that too. Like there's still aspects of me like that now. Maybe a little more self-aware, possibly. I don't know. But what advice would I have for my younger self? Is to keep, to stay committed to knowing yourself. And
how do you do that?
And to knowing where you're collapsing in the face of another. You know, like,
oh man, that's big advice.
Because we can all do it, right? We can, that moment that we think that someone else has more, is more, does more, you know, it's all the mores than we are. And we just, that small self kind of takes over us and we just whitewash ourselves, you know, in the face of something that we perceive as more. And I mean, this is, I think, a lifelong practice, right? But I guess I'm probably more aware of where I collapse now than I was when I was younger. So I guess it's developing and seeing the value in learning to hold on to yourself.
When you realize that you're losing yourself or you are collapsing, then what is your advice to your younger you?
What's my advice when I see that? Just stay in this discomfort longer. Like stay in that place that wants to kind of get out of this feeling. Be there a little longer and ask what's here. Because we're so good at finding something to fix or to be better at or to change. But what if we could just appreciate the you right here and everything that's led to here? I mean, I think if we were to truly do that as a practice and grasp the perfection of all of our moments that we want to shame and guilt ourselves over, that we would probably weep with gratitude. And when we do that, we get our power back because we're not trying to compensate for all of these things that we thought were wrong. And we can instead go, I see you. I see what you were doing then. And I can love you for how you showed up or didn't. And I mean, I say this because I think I don't think we're ever done with that, but I think even just holding ourselves with a little more grace when we get to that place allows us a chance to see wider and embrace a little more of ourselves.
It's really beautiful. What advice would you have for your children or Hugo if this were happening to when he's, 15, 16?
Yeah, fuck. Well, it's funny because like if I could imagine, like, as a parent, this is like your first reaction is to like want it to stop and to like get the authorities onto it and to get those police to do their job. And at the height of it, there were certainly parts of me that felt like, well, of course you'd almost camp there, wouldn't you, if you were a parent? Because we see these horrendous stories, right? And I've said often, like, I'm glad it's me and not a teenager, right? But if I was my child, I would be asking them to look for who's supporting them right now. I would be asking them to find where the integrity is in the message of who they are right now, to ask them if this is a test of their truth, to help them see that what they run from, they're going to run into. So what parts of what's being represented here can you not be with, that you're running from in yourself? And how is this an opportunity to see some of those things? I mean, I feel like it would be like a lot harder to have these conversations with my child than have them with myself, though, right? Because it's just that piece that's that wider net. But I wouldn't want to keep them infantile in the sense of needing to protect them from it, because I don't teach them anything then. So I want to help them find ways to see what's here for them, but also practice what boundaries look like for them as well. Like, do they allow it to continue in the form that it's continuing? Or do they put certain boundaries in place around themselves to minimize it or mitigate it in certain ways so that they can still steer their own ship, which is a little bit like what I'm doing? But don't do that without also going, what's here? Like, what's the growth here? Because you kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater if you don't ask those other questions. Is what I would do. And I would let it also, it's that fine line. So we've got this, discussion we're having here around consciousness, but we've also got the question of what great opportunity this is for a moral lesson, because there's also moral lessons in this too, which we haven't really talked about. But that's a beautiful opportunity to have conversations around how you conduct yourself online and who you share your information with, and the kind of platform that you have for whatever it is that you're doing in the world. I mean, it's all beautiful lessons for that, or guideposts for that. Yeah.
Thank you for your really beautiful wisdom.
Thanks. Thanks for your questions.
I think that we could listen to this podcast 3 or 4 times. I'm sitting in my head going, I'm going to listen to this again. I'm going to file this away for when I end up here, because the truth is, it's not a matter of, oh God, I hope one day I'll never. The truth is, we will all end up here.
Yeah, and it's interesting the number of people who've said that, or have said, oh gosh, I don't know, I don't know what I'd do, or God, I just couldn't handle like that. And the truth is, I think if you already do in some way. It's just that
we all end up here.
It's just the form of this just looks more like in your face. And I think for many people, it exposes many people's either conscious or unconscious fears around social media and the internet. And that's what makes it, challenging for people to see and be with.
Because you feel like you have less control.
Yeah, and this anyone can take your message and distort it, but the truth is that that's human nature. It's just that it's amplified now with the medium of the internet, or with the medium of technology that we have today. And so with that also comes awareness of how you play in those spheres, which is good lessons.
Is there anything that you would like to leave our listeners with before we wrap up today?
Yeah. I'd love for you to kind of tune into where at the moment in your world you might be dancing that kind of edge of, am I shrinking here to kind of fear what's expected of me, or what I think is expected of me? Or am I able to expand and say, no, this is my truth right now? Because there'll be somewhere in your life that you're dancing that, and I invite you to tune in a little longer and see what's really there for you.
And we would love for you to join us for Elixir, the Wisdom series, where we're doing live workshopping, like you've just heard Bridget walk you through quite quickly. We're doing it at a much slower and more integrated personal level within Soul Driven Motherhood. So please come and join that. It's just $39 for the entire month. And you gain an incredible community, the workshops that we're already doing, and over 11 courses on conscious parenting and relationship. So it's really a pretty cool place to be. So please come hang with us. You can find out about Elixir, the Wisdom Series, and Soul Driven Motherhood at nourishingthemother.com.au, Nourishing the Mother on Facebook and Instagram.
Yes.
And connect with you, Bridget.
It's bridgetwood.life. And you, Jules?
Is julietenner.love.
Beautiful. Remember to nourish the woman, to rock the family.
And we'll see you next week when we continue to peel back the layers on your mothering journey.
Thank you so much for listening. We literally couldn't do this without you. Please share this podcast with anyone you think it would be medicine for.
And if you're ready to ask, in what ways can I show up more fully, live more meaningfully, parent more wholly, and love more unconditionally? How can I mine the wisdom from the experiences of my life and expand into those challenges? Then you're a soul-driven, heart-led mama who's ready for conversations and a community that supports her journey. Come join Soul Driven Motherhood. We'd love to have you.
And if you feel like giving back a little to this free content, please rate us on iTunes or Facebook, all of which helps the podcast reach more mamas who need this type of tonic for the soul.
This has been a production of TheWellnessCouch.com. Check us out on Facebook and join in the conversation on Facebook.com/TheWellnessCouch. Subscribe to each show on iTunes and check us out on Twitter. The Wellness Couch, streaming wellness into your lives.
Whilst the Wellness Couch presenter endeavor to provide accurate and helpful information to their listeners, these podcasts cannot take into account individual circumstances and are not intended to be a substitute for health and medical advice from a qualified health professional. You should always seek the advice of a qualified health professional before acting on any of the information provided by any of the Wellness Couch podcasts.